Let me turn now to Christopher Young. He's the Donald Bren Chair of Non-Western Strategic Thought and the Director of East Asian Studies at the U.S. Marine Corps University. Christopher, so much to talk about. Thank you for being on the program. This time, the DPRK missile test failed. There will be other times that it will not fail. In your opinion, sir, how should the United States respond at that point?
You mean when the next test succeeds?
Correct.
Well, I mean, the United States has a number of options available to it. Some to include a ramping up of economic sanctions against North Korea. Some of them including closer cooperation with China to put increased pressure on North Korea. So before we even get to military options, the United States has a number of different coercive options available to it, including freezing of bank accounts directly linked to North Korean leadership. So there are a number of different options the United States can take. Now, if we get, as this gets escalated, the United States could move towards closer military action, to include moving carrier strike groups and naval forces closer to the area of interest. And so there are a number of options before we talk about direct action against North Korea.
And do you think China and the United States are discussing some of these options you just mentioned?
Are you talking about the less military-oriented ones? Or are we talking about
a diplomatic solution to end the crisis?
Yes, I strongly believe the United States and China are directly discussing what types of cooperative activities the two countries can together work towards resolving solution. I'm absolutely positive that from the Chinese side, the Chinese want this resolved and has probably reached out to the United States and vice versa to try and work out some sort of solution, because both the United States and China do not want this to escalate.
The Trump administration has certainly taken a more hardline, seems confrontational approach to this crisis. Is that the right strategy? Is that even their North Korea, their DPRK strategy?
So the question of whether the Trump administration's rhetoric and its stronger stance is going to be working. Well, if you look at the last 8 years, the Obama administration's policy of strategic patience was to allow this to sort of get smothered and to wither away. That hasn't seemed to have worked too well. So an argument can be made that a lot of foreign policy analysts are impatient with strategic patience. And so some analysts will say, well, let's take a look and see whether or not a stronger, more forceful approach to this might actually resolve the issue. It's certainly gotten the world's attention, certainly gotten China's attention, and we'll see how this works out.
China, of course, has pushed for diplomacy. It has consistently pushed for dialogue and bringing DPRK back to six-party talks. Here's something that I hope you can answer for me. Would DPRK be more inclined to join six-party talks, to come back to the negotiating table, if the deployment of THAAD did not go ahead in the Republic of Korea, if the U.S. stopped the military exercises with ROK and Japan, and stopped the deployment of U.S. warships to the region?
So this is, as some other guests on this very network have talked about, we've been here before, we've seen this play out before. Amongst American defense analysts and defense circles, we have a phrase. We do not buy the same loaf of bread twice. That is, we've gotten to the table. By that we mean we'd arrived at a negotiated settlement through the six-party talks with North Korea in agreement for fuel, food,
concessions,
other concessions. The North Koreans were supposed to denuclearize. They haven't done it. And so part of the problem is that all of those conditions that you've just laid out, all of those things that you've just laid out, we've tried before to no avail. Hence, the Obama administration's attempt at strategic patience. We'll just wait out and see what happens, but we're not going to renegotiate positions we'd already negotiated 10, 12, 15 years ago. So the problem with your argument is that we've been there before, and it seems to not have worked.
And some might argue, Christopher, that we've been down the path of sanctions before, we've been down the path of threats and provocations before with angry words, and certainly that doesn't seem to have made a difference.
Well, I mean, an argument could be made that in the early 90s, when just before we signed the framework agreement under the Clinton administration, that this type of strong actions led to the North Koreans coming to the table and eventually signing the agreement. So this debate goes both ways.
All right. Thank you, Christopher Young. A pleasure, sir.
Thank you.